thing I wonder about in terms of what constitutes, let's call it a hot statement, is if you're if the speaker, the person running for president is a Republican, okay? So we've already decided that half or so of the country that's Democratic, voting Democratic, it doesn't really matter what they think of this person. I mean, they can laugh and gee, but if you're Republican and this person stands for some of your key values, maybe you're anti-abortion, maybe you're against the IRS, maybe I don't know. I can't think of anything else at the moment. But if they believe in a couple of the key things that you believe in, are you willing to forgive maybe cheating the facts a little bit, like John Kyle did about about Planned Parenthood or things like that? How far are you willing to go to accept this person's malapropisms, perhaps, or just inanity, versus getting your vote for the President of the United States?
One of the things that I've observed is that when you are the party out of power, your base, more than anything, is desperate to win. So for Republicans in 2012, the number one thing they want to do is beat President Obama. And to do that at times, it means that they're going to hold their nose and vote for a candidate who ideologically they may not be the most aligned with, but who they think has the best chance for winning. And I think 2008 is a perfect example of that. John McCain, a lot of people forget, was down at 4 or 5% in the approval ratings early in the election cycle. The reason for that was he was one of the loudest supporters of immigration reform, which the base hated. But in the end, he was the one who the base determined, wrongly it turns out, would be the most likely to beat Obama. And for that reason, they nominated him. The same is true in 2000. Pat Buchanan had some electoral success early on. George W. Bush proved to be that consensus candidate who would win. So there really is no correlation between ideological purity and who wins the nomination.
The most damning interview question in the 2008 election, I think, was when Sarah Palin was asked by Katie Couric, "What do you read?" That was considered a gotcha question by the right, by Palin, and she brought it up again recently when Couric announced that she was leaving the CBS Evening News. Could there be another moment like that with another candidate? Something that, it was really an inane question. By the way, Palin still hasn't answered it. We still don't know what she reads, if she reads at all, which I think was the point of the question. Could there be another moment like that in another election, or potential candidates too smart not to have a packaged answer for that silly one?
You can bank on it. Here's the truth. You may remember, let's say, as an example, in 2000, I think it was 1999, George W. Bush had already announced. He sat down with a reporter who asked him a series of geography questions. Who's the president of Pakistan? Who's the leader of 3 or 4 different countries, he asked. And Bush couldn't name a single world leader. In fact, when he was asked who was the head of Pakistan, he said general. And the reporter said, "General who?" Bush said, General. So, you could bank on it. In sympathy to these candidates, let me throw them a little courtesy here. During the course of the campaign, they are lucky to get 3 or 4 hours of sleep. So even if they are perfectly media trained and they are very disciplined as candidates, when you're on 3-4 hours of sleep for months on end, you are prone to commit gaffes. So my answer to your question is, you better bet on it. The question is not will it happen? It's how often will it happen? And I'd guess we're going to see a major gaffe once a week, once every couple of weeks.
Speaking of which, one more question and we'll take a break. Let's talk about the hot mic issue. And for people who don't know, that's the term in broadcasting where your microphone has been left on. Maybe it's during a commercial break, or maybe you think it's off and it's on. My favorite hot mic moment of the 2008 campaign, I actually created a website out of this, was Peggy Noonan talking about I think it was the selection of Sarah Palin, said that it was political bullshit. That's the only explanation she had for it, and she didn't know that her microphone was on. I actually created a website. It's called Political Bullshit. It's actually political-bullshit.com. I just thought that was hysterical. Why don't people understand, and it doesn't have to be politicians, it can be business people, it can be celebrities, why don't they understand that the microphone in their mind should always be on?
You know, I'm always reluctant to engage in psychobabble, but let me give you a little bit of a theory. Politicians are by their very nature performers who want to be liked. And so regardless of whether there's a microphone on or not, they always want to be performers. So if they have a mic on, but the interview hasn't happened yet, and there's a few people in the studio who they can make laugh or say something a little bit funny to kind of be their normal, outgoing, fun, likable self, they're going to do it. Now, we've seen so many examples of that. Joe Biden famously, after the healthcare legislation was passed, leaned in on a hot mic and said to President Obama, "This is a big effing deal." He didn't clean it up. I did.
Right.
Gordon Brown, the Prime Minister of England, had a nice conversation on the street with one of his constituents. He got in his car. He forgot he was still mic'd, and he called that woman a bigoted woman. Well, guess what? That was run in an endless loop on the BBC. He lost re-election. His party got swamped in the election. So they don't learn, and it's hard to understand with the amount of case studies that there are why they haven't quite figured out if there's a mic around, don't say anything. In fact, I usually tell our clients, remember the get in your car rule. Until you're in your car, music blasting, and you've probably driven a couple of miles, don't say anything because there's an outside chance a reporter's going to hear it.
There you go. All right, Brad, let's take a quick break. Let's hope that the bubble gum and the aluminum foil hold. This is this is Bob Andelman, and you're listening to and hopefully watching the Mr. Media interview with Brad Philiips, a.k.a. Mr. Media Training, whose blog you can read at mrmediatraining.com. And we'll be right back. We hope.
Hey, did you know that you can listen to the latest Mr. Media on your phone with the Stitcher app? Stitcher is smart radio for your smartphone. Mr. Media is on demand and on the go with Stitcher. Download Stitcher for your phone today. Get the free download at Stitcher.com. That's STITCHER.com.